Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to be doing a review of Three Body Problem, Episode 2. So this is The Dark Forest, the sequel to Three Body Problem. One more book to go, Death's End. That one I'll be picking up next week. So thank you guys, everybody, for watching my first episode review reaction to Three Body Problem. I'm very surprised that YouTube has actually been suggesting this video and to appropriate channel. So really, guys, thank you very much for coming by to watch it, and thank you for coming back to watch my second episode reaction to it. So this is the Netflix Americanized adaptation of Cixin Liu's Three Body Problem. After watching episode 1 and thinking about it as I was watching episode 2, and I was a little bit worried regarding the fast pace of what was happening in the book so far. Like, so much has happened in episode 2, by episode 2, that has happened a little bit further ahead in the book, but I understand why they kind of had to move forward with the story. I do think that it's going to be most likely a 2 to 3 season long show, so they have to move on and quickly with the story. And then realizing that, it also made me realize that my favorite parts of the show have so far been the Chinese parts of the show, the parts that take place in the past, so in the 60s and the 70s. And I'm kind of worried the further that the season will go, we're going to be obviously focusing less on China and focusing more on the West. And that's the part of the show that's been getting me the most concerned, because like I had said in the episode 1 review, there's a lot of the modern times of the show that I do not like, and it's very jarring. Firstly and foremost being the swearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys now a clip. It's 3 minutes long, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute the video, and the only time I'm going to show I'm going to have the audio playing is when there is swearing, and I'm going to number each time they swear in that short video clip. So it's going to be 3 minutes, and you're going to see that there's 9 or 10 swears within that 3 minutes. That's very excessive. These are supposed to be scientists, and I'm sorry, the more you swear, the stupider you sound to me. I hate that study that came out a few years ago where scientifically smarter and more intelligent people tend to swear more. I thought that was such a stupid study, and it has caught on so greatly in our society, and it's really so stupid. So here's the clip. Hopefully Netflix will not claim or block the video for my usage of it. If it doesn't show, it's because I had to edit it out because the video was blocked or claimed by Netflix. So here it is. Again, there's a lot of swearing, so if you're not into that, here's the timestamp to move past it.
There's no headphone jack. He's not even fucking charging. Holy shit. This is fucking mental. Fuck! What the fuck?
What happened?
No, the fucking... I can feel the cold. I can taste the fucking dirt. Oh no, that's just fucking absurd. Our mission, dear child, is Jack fucking Rooney getting his mortal fucking revenge.
Holy smokes. That was a lot of swearing, wasn't it? Alright, so like I said, these are supposed to be scientists, and the excessive use of the swearing, especially the constant F dropping. Bro, what are you, teenagers? No, you're scientists. Alright, so now regarding the good parts of the show that I'm enjoying, again, I had said before that my favorite parts of the show are actually the parts that take place in China. So we have 2 very important parts that happen in this show, in this episode, episode 2. The first part is when Wenji meets the girl who was a young girl, a teenage girl, when she killed her father. So it's a very it's a very emotional, very heavy, very impactful scene, and both characters are looking for the other character to acknowledge their pain and what they have, what the young girl did to her father, and she doesn't show any remorse, just like Wenji is not showing any remorse for what happened to her after the consequences of her actions. So we see that the girl, she lost her arm, so shortly after the revolution passed, the girl that killed Wenji's father was sent to work in the fields, and she got an infection, got gangrene, and what happened? The guards pinned the girl down, and to cure her of the gangrene, they cut off the poor kid's hand, and you could clearly see the girls crying, looking at Wenji, looking for some sort of empathy, some sort of acknowledgement for her suffering. And then Wenji is doing the same thing to her, trying to get some sort of acknowledgement, some sort of atonement, some sort of repentance for what she did to her father. So when you are not willing to compromise and you are not willing to acknowledge the pain in somebody else, it's very difficult to move forward. So that very much jades Wenji. And then because don't forget, Wenji has been at this point betrayed pretty much by everybody in her life after her father passed. So we saw Wenji having a talk with one of her comrades when they figure out that they could amplify the signal if they aim the satellite at the sun. She shows the guy the mathematical equation of why it's going to be faster and things like this. So he's on her side, and he agrees with her that they should bring this up to their superior. But what does the guy do? He takes that information and he himself, by himself, goes and speaks with the general. And oh boy, does he pay for what he did. And at that point, Wenji, you can see the anger and the resentment in her eyes, but I'm sure she was also grateful that she was not the one that approached the general with her comrade. So he's telling that for this, they could be executed, they could lose everything, so they're not going to go forward with their plan. So then we move towards the end of the episode, which is the climax, the first climax of the show. Well, the book. So Wenji, without the knowledge of her comrades and her superiors, she actually moves the satellite and positions the satellite to the sun. That's why we have the light over here. And they send out the message. And then a little while later, Earth gets their first response from an outside life. And it's an intelligent life. And what does this life tell her? It tells her, do not respond. Do not respond. Do not respond. I am a pacifist on my planet. If you respond, we will come to your planet and we will conquer your planet if you choose to respond. Do not respond. Do not respond. Do not respond. So at this point, Wenji, she has the weight of the world, the life of all living beings on Earth. We are all relying on her making the right choice to not respond. But she's thinking back on what her life has become, what has happened to her throughout her life. And she comes to the conclusion that we cannot help ourselves. We are beyond repentance. We are not compassionate. We cannot save ourselves. and we need the Trisolarans to save us. And man, when I read those words, do not respond, I got shivers. I got shivers on the goosebumps. It was the one of the most amazing parts of the book. So that was the part of the book, the show so far that I loved the most. So again, this is the Chinese part, the part that's the best written, the best acted in my opinion, and it's the most impactful parts. And then we move to the American part. So we are already at the point where I forgot her name completely. Sorry about that, guys. She's already working on the nanotechnology that we see at the end of the book. No spoilers, so I'm not going to say what the nanotechnology is for. So she takes the decision after she sees that her nanotechnology is effective, it will work. So she was warned before, remember in episode 1, if the countdown goes to 0, nothing good ever happens at 0. So she still had time. So after her experiment was proven successful, she pulls the plug on her whole thing, and then the timer stops. So that's kind of what happened in the book as well, more or less. And we also have our first good look at the VR. And this is kind of where, I showed you guys the clip with the swearing. And so we have the chubby scientist, he puts on the VR helmet, and he gets engrossed in the world. So because he was not invited to play the game, we have the assassin that comes, and each time he logs in, attempts to play, always gets his head cut off. You were not invited. Get out of here, she's telling him. Those things are cool in themselves, but what ruins and takes you out of the immersion and the believability is the constant swearing. And that's the thing that I find is the most problematic with the show. Forget the fact that they took one character of the book and split that character into 4 or 5 different characters for the show, for Americanized reasons, so they can have the representations of different diversities and whatever for their ESG rating. Bro, grow up. Don't get upset with me saying that. It's clearly what happens in Canada, clearly is what happens in the US. There is an ESG rating that these shows, movies, and video games have to meet, and it's always to the detriment of the show. So moving on. So what the part that I really like the most is when the girl gains control again of the VR, and she goes into 2 periods. So the first period she goes in, we see the little girl that is accompanying them and her tour. So they move on to an unstable, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was called an unstable era, where it's excessively hot, and the only way to survive is through dehydration. So they have to get the kid to get away from the shade of the boulder, so she becomes dehydrated. But you don't die, you just become completely dehydrated. So they roll up the little girl's skin and then carry it forward. And then we see towards the end where the guy made his divination, his prediction of when the next stable era will happen, and he tells them that we're going to have 63 years of a stable era, good times. So now is the time to rehydrate their citizens. So we see them, they throw the dehydrated husks of people into the water, and then with the water, they all come back to life and everything is good. So she takes the little girl and puts her in the water, and she becomes rehydrated again. But because this is nothing more than divination and prediction, nothing scientific to back why the guy said we're going to have 63 years of prosperity and stable era, a disaster happens. And they move into a frozen era. So everybody that just came back to life, whoever wasn't able to get back into the temple, they all froze, and the little girl is crying out for her help. She finally reaches the girl, and then she grabs the girl to take her, but it's already too late. She's frozen. So that's the end of her era. But because she was able to introduce scientific acknowledgement, scientific backing into the game, she leveled up, and she's going to go on to level 2 because of her scientific push. All in all, the show itself is not bad. The bastardization of the show is something that I really don't like, and I feel the further the show goes and the further they get away from China, because they do seem to be focusing more on the UK portion of the show, I feel that the show will become harder to watch because of the modern politics that they will and already are injecting in the show. I'm really hoping Dashi, Big Shi, could pull the show forward with his presence and his character, because he is, again, in the book, he's my favorite character. In the show, it's hard to it's hard to appreciate the character because there's really nothing to him yet. But the swearing, can you imagine if you're watching what's his name? You're watching a CERN documentary, and the leader of CERN non-stop F-bombs and S this and MF that. Are you going to take him as seriously? No. So I really think that they need... Season 1 is already done, but if they haven't started production of Season 2, reducing... You don't have to remove the swearing. I know our culture is obsessed with swearing, but reducing the amount of swearing that we have in the show will greatly improve the show going forward. I'm going to watch episode 3, and so far the Chinese version of the show apparently was made by Tencent. I don't know if it's Tencent, the gaming company. So to me, that version of the show is still better than this, even though it doesn't have the production value, proving that you don't need a massive production value to have a successful show. I found it was really stupid how they're, I forgot to mention this part, the whole universe blinking. It was, I hate the modernization. It was fake news. Yeah, they literally used those words. It was fake news. So they're trying to tell the people that it never happened because the major corporations didn't see it and didn't acknowledge it. Therefore, if the major corporations don't see it, it has never happened. Stay tuned for episode 3. I appreciate you guys giving me a few minutes of your time today. I'll catch you guys on the next time. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Alright, Jiga Vega out. Later.